Anyway, here's Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are living in the kingdom of Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar is kind of a clown ruler in a lot of ways in these things. He's got this huge ego, you know, and some people talk him into building this altar that looks like him. And then they also talk him into having everybody bow down to that altar at certain times of the day. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are children of God, and they won't do it. Now, whenever it comes time and the bells ring or whatever happens for everybody to bow down, here's people from all over the world, all different countries, and all different places that come down and they bow down. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego stand there, and they won't bow. Everybody else bows. Now, the big thing about that is they had no doubt. They were ones that didn't believe all those songs. I don't know how they did it, frankly. It's a difficult thing to understand for me how they were able to do that. But they were actually thrown into the fiery furnace as a punishment for that, to be executed. And most of you know the story that whenever Nebuchadnezzar looked into the furnace, there not only was those three, there was another that was dancing in there dancing. They're having a party, man. They're having a great time in there. It's like, you know, the beach in summertime or something, you know. There's no big deal for them. Nebuchadnezzar became sort of a believer himself at that time, and he released all three of them, and they went on to do other things in his kingdom. What I want to talk to you about, and goes with this next, with the next point about why people express doubts, is everybody else that was in that group. These hundreds of people that were foreigners, there were probably some of them that thought that they believed and had the kind of belief that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego did. Okay? But everybody else around them is kneeling down at that altar. So all of a sudden they get a little weak-kneed and they can't do it. They can't stand alone and be the one that will be forceful on that. I've run into that a few times myself, and just last weekend on minor things. You know, I'm talking about life and death issues here a lot, but you know, even little things are life and death issues to some extent. Last weekend I was playing golf. I blew off church for the weekend. I played golf for the whole weekend down at Butler, at a club that we went to for an outing. And on Saturday morning we went to the first tee, and there was an old timer there that was the starter at the tee box. And he says, he comes up to me, we're being friendly. The first thing he does is starts talking to us, telling us some pretty raunchy jokes. Then he starts into some racial jokes. And everybody's trying to move away, but nobody could move away, including me. Very uncomfortable, don't want to hear it, have no desire to hear it at all. But it was a very difficult thing because there's 10 other guys standing there just to turn and walk away. How many of us have walked in and run into that type of a situation before, where there were 10 other guys? I find out later on that there were at least 6 or 7 of those other guys that had no desire to hear that either, because I talked to them about it later after I got my backbone back a little bit. And even little things, you know, sometimes we need to stand up just because others are not standing up. We need to. A couple other points I think where sometimes the doubt comes in. This day and age, I believe that we have a difficult time not even necessarily knowing God, you know, knowing and having a friendship and having a relationship with Christ, but it's been so melted down that we don't even understand the face of evil sometimes. So we don't recognize that things are evil on occasion. And there was an example here a couple of weeks ago whenever the shooting rampage happened at Virginia Tech. Most of you read the story about the Jewish professor who stood at the door and gave his life so that others could survive. You know, just a wonderful story of heroism for a man like that. Of all people, Dennis Miller, sports commentator and comedian, and I thought gave the best, to me, gave the best view of that, the best insight into that whole situation, though. And his comments were, his feeling was that this man was a Holocaust survivor. He knew evil. He'd seen it in the face before. He looked evil in the eye before. So whenever this young man, crazed man, looks in the window, he knew what was going on there. But he didn't turn and run. He went towards it. Some of us, even if we think we would go towards evil, don't know what the evil is. Because everything's still a violent video game or is a Law and Order flick. I'll guarantee you next year, probably by the end of October, Law and Order will have a show on Virginia Tech with some twist in it, because that's what they do. But that's, you know, I'm not 100% condemning the shows, but we're so desensitized. It's one of the reasons why we have these doubt issues.